LGB. 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 LGB.
They say LGB everywhere I go. LGB. What it means, I don't know. LGB. Whatever it is. LGB. Kamala, help me, please. Please.
Alrighty then.
Thank you. LGB.
That's let's go, Brandon, right?
LGB.
This means let's go, Brandon.
No. LGB.
Sounds like let's go, Brandon, I guess.
LGB. All right. Let's go, Brandon.
I am Cornholio.
Chant LGB. Right wing and left wing. LGB. Go, you know the thing. LGB. If you don't sing that back. LGB. And you ain't black. LGB.
Let's go, Brandon.
LGB.
Let's go, Brandon.
LGB.
Let's go, Brandon.
FJB. Let's go, Brandon.
I'm Joe Biden, and I forgot this message.
Greetings, my dear friends, and welcome to another episode of Reading Epic Threads. I'm your host, Patrick Gunnels, joining you from Houston, Texas, this February 14th, 2024 at 9:18 a.m. Central Standard Time. It is Valentine's Day, so happy Valentine's Day to you. Happy Valentine's Day to my lovely wife, Ashley. I got her a rose preserved forever and a cute balloon. But before we begin, I want to remind everybody that this show is brought to you by epicthreads.tv. That's right, epicthreads.tv. Now, what does that mean? Well, it's the home of this show, Reading Epic Threads. If you get more than $150 in orders at epicthreads.tv, the home of Angel Paste Miracle Cream, Angel Paste Rose Infused Miracle Cream, $150 or more, you get free shipping. It's the best lotion the world has ever known, guys, made only of food-grade plant oils. And we have artisan soap coming up. And, of course, it's not up yet, but at least we've got the page up and running. So we're going to have soap available soon. So definitely check that out. In any event, it's going to be a good time. So go to epicthreads.tv. Make sure to use promo code Shapiro to pry $1 from my grasping hands. All right. I'm going to do one piece today, and then I'm going to go work out with Ashley. From Delingpole.substack.com, How to Put an Awake Person Off Christianity by James Delingpole. If you've ever taken ecstasy, you'll probably be familiar with that maddening scenario in which all your friends have started coming up on their pills, but yours don't seem to be working. You're going to be fine. These pills are great, says one friend, trying to focus on you with pupils now the size of saucers. Seriously, don't worry. You'll be up in a moment. Just give it time, says another, stroking your arm, then forgetting to stroke your arm as another massive rush comes on. Your friends all look at you with love. You shoot them back a look, which they are too monged to recognize as the purest hate. They are having fun and you are not. Their pills are working and yours never will. It was just your rotten luck to have picked the one dodgy pill in the entire batch. You are cursed. You are alone. You are very, very bitter. Nothing is going to shake your conviction that, however good everyone else's white pills might have been, yours is definitely a dud. Why am I telling you this story? Because it reminds me quite a lot of a phenomenon I encounter with depressing regularity on social media whenever the topic of Christianity comes up. All too often, a rift opens up in my mostly red-pilled audience between those who see Christianity as our only hope and salvation and between those who, for various reasons, see it as a distraction or a threat. What invariably happens at this point is that the Christians start testifying to the non-Christians as to the wondrousness of their faith. Just open your heart to Jesus and you too will see the truth is the general tenor of their evangelical message. And every time they do so, I wince. It's not that I'm doubting the sincerity of their beliefs or the beneficence of their desire to save souls. Rather, it's that I know that their well-meant attestations will more often than not have the very opposite effect to the one intended. Far from winning over new converts, it is a strategy almost guaranteed to harden the hearts of unbelievers and to entrench them in their resistance. One reason for this is that the awake, or red-pilled, call them what you will, are by nature skeptical of everything, and that definitely includes organized religion. For them, Christianity, at least potentially, is yet another of those things we have taught, well-ish, to believe is true, meaningful, and real, but which turns out on closer examination to be yet another gigantic psyop, maybe even the biggest psyop of them all. If you've looked into 9/11 or the Kennedy assassination or even more obscure areas like Paul is dead, why should the religion that has dominated Western thought and culture for over 2,000 years be off limits? Well, it shouldn't, obviously. Once you've understood that the world is ruled against the interests of the people by a cabal of the rich, powerful, and wicked, then clearly the next step is to ask who they are. And definitely on the list of suspects should be any institution, such as the Vatican or the Church of England, which has held sway over both the spiritual and temporal realms for centuries. When you go down this rabbit hole, you'll find plenty of evidence to support this thesis, more often than not involving the supposedly Catholic Jesuits. You'll also come across copious research claiming to debunk Christianity, skepticism as to the authenticity and credibility of the key scriptural texts, the theory that Christianity is in fact just a Jewish plot, claims that Christ never actually existed or that he is merely an archetype derived from older religions, perhaps just a rebadged version of the Egyptian god Horus, the Old Testament God is actually Satan, and so on. Then there are the appeals to liberty, rationality, modernity. Christianity is another cope designed by man to deal with his fear of death. Christianity is patriarchal, misogynistic, homophobic, controlling, hierarchical, and worryingly out of touch on the issue of animal rights. Christianity is a primitive superstition which places undue credence on the existence of a big sky fairy. Christianity can't be right because how can you reconcile its notion of a loving God, thanks Stephen Fry, with parasitical worms that eat the eyes of innocent children? Christianity, with its outrageous claim that no one comes to the Father except through me, is discriminatory, elitist, and cruelly indifferent to all those other marvelous religions out there whose yogis and Sufis and mystics seem so refreshingly chilled, wise, and based. Why, it's almost as if, of all the people in the world, the ones who ought to be most skeptical of Christianity are the awake, especially those among the awake who have discovered the true nature of the world after meeting the little gray men on their DMT and ayahuasca trips, or the ones that have raised their consciousness through transcendental meditation, or who have woken their inner snake via Kundalini yoga, or those who are red-pilled in the first place by David Icke and have inferred that if he was so right about all the conspiracy stuff, he must be right about the spiritual stuff too. I do hope that my ardent, evangelizing Christian friends can now see the problem here. When you tell defiantly atheist, or at least non-Christian awake people that, well, Christianity has been great for me, or red flag to a bull, this one, that you are going to pray for them, you are not doing your cause any favors. As far as your reluctant potential convert is concerned, you're saying the equivalent of, trust me, bro, the Twin Towers really were brought down by a man in a cave. I feel it in my bones, and anyway, the 9/11 Commission said so. This is why, as I often say, the first job of any Christian in the face of non-believers should be, don't frighten the horses. Coming on too strong to a non-Christian is like coming on too strong to someone you fancy. More often than not, the effect is repellent. Of course, I recognize that for some non-believers, even the merest mention of Christianity qualifies as coming on too strong. For example, whenever I have one of my podcast chats with my brother Dick about our latest adventures in Christianity, there will always be the odd complaint in the Rumble comments about how boring it is and why can't we talk about something else? My Christian answer to such people is, fuck you and the horse you rode in on. Or maybe if I'm in a more polite mood, why not go and listen to trigonometry instead? I'm sure you'll find it much more up your street. This isn't a religion thing, nor is it, heaven forfend, an evangelizing thing. Rather, it's the entire point of my podcast, as ought to be bleeding obvious by now, is authenticity. My house, my rules. If you don't like me talking about Christianity or fox hunting or my memories of Oxford or my interrupting the podcast to take a call from my daughter wanting more money or to let the cat through the window or to put the dog out or hearing Dick talk about military reenactment or World of Tanks, I'm not going to go, oh, that's a good point you make there. From now on, I'm going to talk about veganism, Tartaria, and the fact that we're living in a simulation. Will that do you? No. The reason I do mention Christianity now and again is that I find the subject fascinating. Indeed, it may be the rabbit hole to end all rabbit holes. Certainly, it ought to be at least of passing interest to any vaguely curious person, all of which all the awake people are by definition, because it addresses or claims to address all the big questions. Where did we come from? Why are we here? What happens afterwards? Awake people who happen to be atheists may think that they have a right to duck out of that first question. But if they try it, that would be a massive cop-out because it would entail subscribing to one of the biggest psyops in history, evolution theory. If you don't yet realize this, then you clearly haven't looked into it. Most of the usual suspects were involved in its genesis: the Rothschilds, high-level Freemasons, the Illuminati, the Jesuits who gave us Big Bang Theory, and the science, as so often with establishment science, just doesn't stack up. Basically, if you still believe we got here by accident, then you may as well hand back your awake card now, because your position is no better than that of the most deluded normie. I'm not saying evolution theory is a busted flush, therefore Genesis is correct. What I am saying is, given that evolution theory is as credible as the moon landings, then you're going to need a more plausible alternative. It seems to me, correct me if I'm wrong, that whether you believe it all came about because of aliens or cosmic rays or whatever else, you're still ultimately going to have to acknowledge that somewhere, somehow, the originator of all this stuff was some kind of creator. Once you've accepted, as logically you must, that the world and everything in it is some manner of supernatural creation, then you can no longer opt out. You have to pick a side. For some, the decision may already have been made. If you were born, say, Muslim or Hindu, you might well feel spiritually or culturally committed to the religion you've got. But my argument here isn't addressed to the minority in such a category. Rather, it's addressed, well, mainly at that hefty contingent among the awake who are either undecided about or actively hostile towards the notion that Christianity is the answer to our current predicament. And the way I think we should approach it is quite different from the Jesus save me and he'll save you too one favored by too many Christians. Rather, the question that needs to be asked is, which of all the religions out there is most likely to piss off, thwart, and confound the evil bastards currently running the world and hell-bent on poisoning us, maiming us, torturing us, enslaving us, and killing us? The answer is so obvious, I need hardly insult you by stating it. Anyone who has spent any time at all down the rabbit hole will eventually find themselves in the bone-littered, blood-stained tunnels that lead them into chambers like adrenochrome, satanic ritual abuse, 33rd degree, Baphomet, Babylonian mystery religions, Sabbatean Frankism, Illuminati, and so on. Some are blatant in their evil, some address it more subtly, and they don't all involve exactly the same belief system. But there's one thing they all have in common. The Christian God is their most bitter enemy. This isn't some impressive claim that Christians have cooked up in order to make themselves look more butch and relevant. I doubt there's a Christian anywhere who would actually have chosen to live in a world where trillionaires and their minions rape and murder small children because it's their way of getting one over the big guy that they hate. But that is the deal. We know it's the deal because former Illuminati bagmen have told us so, because satanic ritual abuse victims and even former satanic high priests and priestesses have told us so. Scripture is quite explicit on this score. Children have a special place in God's heart. Matthew 18 tells us, "But whoso shall offend one of these little ones which believe in me, it were better for him that a millstone were hanged about his neck, and that he were drowned in the depth of the sea." Violating this principle is just one of the ways that the rulers of the darkness of this world get their kicks. Ye shall know them by their fruits, Jesus tells us earlier in the same gospel. And it's not as though they don't give us the most massive clues as to their spiritual affiliations. The occult symbolism at the Super Bowl, all those celebrity photos displaying the concealed hand, the one eye, the hushed lips, the devil's horns, the Baphomet Halloween costumes, the red Kabbalah bracelets, and for those deeper down the rabbit hole with eyes to see, the gobsmackingly bizarre yet vauntingly blatant phenomenon of elite transgender inversion. None of this stuff is accidental. They're not engaging in it just for the shits and giggles. It's carefully thought through, and it has a profound spiritual purpose, which is well described in the Bible. From the Tower of Babel to God's repeated injunctions against the Canaanite practice of putting children in the fire, it is about the eternal war by the fallen angels on God's creation, and ultimately about actually replacing it with a sick, man-made simulacrum of the divine. Hence, transhumanism, hence the attempts to bypass our natural immune system with supposedly all healing vaccines, hence the suppression of natural remedies and their replacement with synthetic ones. Once you understand the fundamental principles underlying the apparently disparate policies being inflicted on us by the powers that be, from the blood sacrifice of endless engineered wars to the confiscation and destruction of fertile farmland, it all makes total sense in a way it never quite will if you choose to view the world purely in non-spiritual material terms. You may not choose to believe in God, but the rulers of the darkness of this world most certainly do. He is both their chief antagonist and their prime motivator. They've got all the power and money that they could ever need. It's not the greenbacks or the seats on the board that get them up in the morning, but their burning desire to thwart a creator who, according to their perverse spiritual philosophy, is the enemy. The terms of this eternal conflict are set out right at the beginning in Genesis 3, when the serpent whispers to Eve that if only she and Adam eat the forbidden fruit, then your eyes shall be opened and ye shall be as gods. So, where Christians see themselves as subordinate to God, here is an apparently more tempting alternative that if you follow the serpent's path, you actually get to be God. Well, God-ish. Note that the G in Satan's offering, and this should be a warning clue, is lowercase. Herein lies the trap for so many, awake and non-awake alike. but perhaps most especially for the awake, because it's a message so perfectly attuned to their skepticism of authority, to their powerful sense of curiosity, and to their understandable conviction that with just a bit more research, a bit more deployment of their mighty, no-nonsense intellect, they can finally get to the truth. Which is why so many of the most brilliant people in history have bought into the serpent's lie. Why not? On the face of it, it makes so much more sense. Who, after all, would choose the subservience, apparent passivity, and all too often agonizing martyrdom of Christianity when the alternative is to join the elite group of clever, rich people who've acquired the hidden knowledge by which they can transcend coach class and travel perpetually first? To answer that question, you only have to look at what these people do in order to get there. They must lie, deceive, live a double life, operate in secret, cut themselves off from and exploit those of their fellow humans who don't make the grade, develop facets of their personality which most of us find instinctively discomforting, such as cunning and slyness and ruthlessness. And that's before you get onto the really dark stuff. That is James Delingpole. That's right. Delingpole.substack.com. Delingpole.substack.com. Don't forget to do a subscription for money if you can afford it. Delingpole is one of my favorites. It's one of Chris Paul's favorite too. We always look forward to it when he puts out a new article. This show is brought to you by epicthreads.tv, the home of Angel Paste, the best lotion the world has ever known, consisting of only food-grade plant oils. Coming up soon, artisan soap. Not quite ready yet, as you can see, but we're almost there. We have merchandise collections. Check that out as well. And of course, we're going to be doing all the other things as well. Go to epicthreads.tv and get all the stuff. You get more than $150. You get free shipping. So just remember that. Okay. So I think that's going to have to be the end of the show for today. I have a tight schedule involving Valentine's Day, so I apologize for the shortness of this show. I will hopefully be going back to my normal length of show tomorrow, and it'll be a fun time. So everybody, thank you so much for being here, and let us pray. Saint Michael the Archangel, defend us in battle. Be our protection against the wickedness and snares of the devil. May God rebuke him, we humbly pray. And do thou, O Prince of the heavenly host, by the power of God, cast into hell Satan and all evil spirits who prowl about the world, seeking the ruin of souls. Amen. I love you all. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you tomorrow.
I will be the greatest president that God ever created.